Welcome. Welcome. How are you, Eddie? My
Doing
name is
wonderful.
Christina, and I am here with Mr. Eddie Stone, creator and founder of PBX. He loves everything purity and potency, and he is really driving that into PBX and how he is the originator of the nano-sized zeolite. So we're here to listen a little bit more, Eddie. I'm Christina. Once again, I'm a personal trainer. I work with your company, and I am helping people to get some answers that they would want. So I'm just so happy to have you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be with you and your folks, to be a part of your community today.
Yes. So we're just gonna jump right in. We want to start picking your brain right away. The thing that's going on is I've been using PBX for a while now, not with just myself, my family, but also with my clients. And the results that we're having are really, really encouraging. And so we just wanted to find out why. Let me share with you a couple of the things that I'm hearing first off, and then you can, elaborate on it. So for myself, fibroids, cysts, I've had some major reversals of issues with that. And people are talking about hormonal balancing and just energy, menstrual problems disappearing. Men are talking about more energy, better testosterone levels, better sleep. It's coming out like just different random things, right? Mental clarity. And we want to know why. I know we can't say that this product is curing anything, right? We're not gonna make those claims. But we want to know, is this product helping the body's endocrine system, and in turn helping our hormones and things like that? And that's why we're having these results. Can you connect the dots for us on this?
Yeah, and I'll be brief, and if we need to do a follow-up, we can, because there's a lot to unpack there, right?
Yes.
And so the first thing to think about is the human body is brilliant, right? If you spend any time sort of studying and looking at the human body, it can do just unbelievable things. It's a very complicated piece of machinery, but it's flesh, right? It's got all these, aspects to it. But if it's kind of thrown into the environment, let's just call it the modern world, right? The go-go world we live in, and it's sort of faced with these 80 to 100+ thousand toxins that are just in our atmosphere, water, air, soil. They're a part of the consumer products that we have, whether it's about packaging for food, or there's just all kinds of places this stuff exists. And your audience probably sort of understands those dynamics. The human body wasn't necessarily designed to deal with that, particularly at the volume or the pace of exposure that we have in a modern world. And I'm talking about physical matter, but we could also be talking about wavelengths or 5Gs, all these things that can be disruptive to the native systems that you have. The endocrine system, being very specific there, right? It's a series of glands that, produce and secrete hormones and stuff, but it affects respiratory, metabolism, reproduction, sensory, movement. I mean, just sort of your whole system, right, is partly functioning there. And when you've got heavy metals, environmental pollution, volatile organics, lead, cadmium, chromium, hexavalent chromium, all these things, they're disruptive, right? They can even be disruptive how your body builds bones, how your immune system functions, and the health and sort of effectiveness of your white blood cells, which are, your immune system, right? Your autoimmune system can be affected by all these things. So the body has native abilities to detox, but not everybody's system or body works as effectively as the next person. You've probably met people, same environment. One has acute skin rashes and respiratory problems, another person's just fine. So anytime you introduce something like a zeolite, natural mineral that will support the body's abilities to detox, then you're going to lessen the burden of it. There's this body burden. You're going to lessen that burden, and then you're going to make it easier for the body to manage toxins improve gut health. And so now all of a sudden, your systems for managing respiratory problems or metabolism, right, they're freer to do their job because there's less of a burden. Think about an automobile this is a pretty simple example, but just think about something where a car is not tuned, it's got dirty air filters, it's got dirty oil, it performs poorly. You go and clean that stuff up, and all of a sudden the car performs like it's new, even though it's got 110, 20,000 miles on it. I'm 57. I feel like I've got 200,000 miles on me. And so I attribute paying attention to things like detox as a nutritional strategy, as a tool, has been important to enjoy as good a health as I do. And I look at my own peer group and see people not paying attention to those things, not putting good stuff back in their body, giving it something to work with. So they suffer because the body's own natural abilities aren't living to their full potential.
Right. Well, yes, that is just a perfect explanation, because we know that it's the body that does all the healing.
Absolutely.
There's no magic pill that you can just take and, oh, I'm just better again. We know that it's ultimately the body's systems that work together, work in harmony, and then they do the work.
Yep,
they do the work. We're just trying to help it.
Yeah.
So we're so grateful that we've found such a simple way to help it is what we're celebrating, really, because especially for women. I mean, we have to go through things monthly, right? You know what I mean? And if we're miserable, if we're just miserable every month, and we know we're going to be miserable, life can get a little bit hard.
Yeah, not as fun, right?
Especially for those around us.
Yeah.
So we have happy wives and happy husbands, happy children. I mean, it's a win-win all around when we have these type of successes.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients that when the woman is thriving and she's able to do, the most that she's able to do for her family, everybody benefits, because women in general, we just give and we take care of, we're the caretakers. Whether we're working a full-time job, juggling soccer, baseball, whatever, we're doing 50 million things, but we're always still, wanting to care for our families and make them the healthier, versions of themselves. So that's why I just kind of tag into the women for a second, but I know the men do equally as much. And from the men that I'm hearing, just the energy and the stamina is great for them. They may not be as in tune with all the things that's going on in their body, but things are happening in their body too. So they're pretty happy as well. Okay, great. So
let me just add one thing to think about there. So
yeah,
here's, when I think of supplements, I take it literally, right? They're a supplement. They're not a substitute for the best diet that you can, or getting a trainer, or working out, or trying to drink the cleanest water that you can, or breathe the freshest air that you can. It's not a replacement for those fundamentals that we know about, but it does help bridge the gap between where people are based upon life circumstances, busy schedule, what's available, and where they want to be. And all of that for us as an ethos, as a company, is a part of the fact that what we do and what we developed is designed to be a platform for you, an individual, to reach the full measure of their potential, and whatever that is on an individual basis. And so that's why these things are just important to think about them as tools to support the body. And I don't think it's hard to think about, if you don't give your body some help, something to work with, you're just become sort of a victim of circumstance, right? And I think we can change that, right? I much prefer to have a proactive approach to life. And so these things, and listen, it doesn't stop with the endocrine system, right? I know you and I talked about gut health. In the same way that toxins are a burden and disruptive to the performance of your endocrine system, hormonal imbalances and things that kind. Same thing happens with the gut. And what people don't realize is your gut is not only vital because it helps to process food and calories and helps you get micronutrients from the food that you're eating and all these other dynamics. It's because it's also a vitally important part of the function of your immune system. And even something as simple as like mood. Most people don't realize that 90+%, according to most research, of your serotonin is produced in your gut. If you have an unhealthy gut, it likely means you're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And it's a
Grumpy.
cycle. And then you're dependent and eating bad ultra processed foods that contributes to your bad gut. And so you get in these downward spirals. So quite literally, when people start eating their feelings, which are generally cheap carbohydrate foods, right? Hydroglycemic foods, things of that kind, and they spiral. It's a trap that's very difficult to break. And so if you're someone that finds that, wow, I don't know why my mood is this way, right? They catch everything that comes their direction, right? It can be as simple as trying to back up and think, okay, what am I putting in my body that's affecting my gut? What am I breathing? What's in my water? What's around me? Because those toxins, they can lead to an unhealthy gut. So you can have an overgrowth of bad flora. When you've got an overgrowth of bad flora, it can lead to blooms of yeast, which are very difficult, particularly for women, but men also have yeast problems as well. You can look at research on, let's say, people that have alcohol problems, right? Oftentimes it's because they have probably had too much over time. They've got overgrown yeast inside their system, and they literally need the sugar and alcohol to feed it. It becomes a fiscal craving. So the dynamics and the relationship between what you're putting in your body, outward influences such as toxins, and your gut are critical. So we really think about zeolite. It's supportive in that way, helps to balance the pH, but we also want you to think about fresh fruits and vegetables. If you can't, look for greens drinks, but do some things to give that body some tools to work with. And for those that want to read more, we've got tons of good stuff on our blog about what you can do to sort of regain control of gut health, which will then support the endocrine system, because it's all holistically connected. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that is everything that you just said is 100%. I'm 100% on, because as I said, I'm personal trainer with my clients. Sometimes we have in the beginning, sometimes we have to use some bridges. And I like how you said that. It bridges the gaps. Supplements in themselves will bridge the gap to help somebody get from, super unhealthy lifestyle to, a healthier lifestyle. But, once they get over that bridge, then hopefully they've made a new way of life, implemented some new healthy things. So it's a journey. I always say that, this is a journey. This is not just like a one-time and once and done. This is a lifestyle that you want to help your body to thrive in. And so yes, everything that you just said. And that leads me into my targeted next question is parasites. People have been mentioning, we don't want to get too TMI here. I know it's a touchy subject for some, but parasites coming out of their body. And this is a good thing. But people are just shocked that they're seeing it, because, all they're doing is, spraying something in their mouth, putting a couple drops in their water or in their mouth. And they're just like, how I only changed a couple things. How is this happening? Like, why? Can you just elaborate just a little bit more? I know it's gut health issue, but is PBX doing something with that?
In an indirect way, it is, because anything that promotes good flora, good gut health, really makes you an inhospitable host to these parasites and their damage, which can lead to permanent organ damage, even life-threatening organ failure, from what can happen if not properly dealt with and treated. And so what I tell people is there's all kinds of things you hear, right, where it's like, okay, and I've been doing this a long time. I've been with zeolites around since 2005. So a long time. So you hear a lot of interesting stories, but the bottom line is anything you do to make yourself an inhospitable host, which means the membrane barrier that most parasites are putting around themselves, so they're hiding from your immune system, much in the way that cancer functions in the body and hides from the immune system. Those things begin to break down when you become an inhospitable host. And so that's really the sort of the mechanics. And I'm taking a pretty complex subject and making it simple, but that's mechanics of why that's happening.
No, I follow you. So basically is what you're saying is, they're surrounded by something, protected. We're taking away their protection. We're exposing them. and now they're being able to be naturally eliminated.
That's exactly what's taking place in a biologically complex environment. But yes, that's what's happening.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, my plan today was to make this a 2-part thing if it was going over, but I think we're actually doing pretty good on time. So why don't we just run into the next one, if that's okay with you?
Sure.
So lastly, what I wanted to talk to you about, and I have a couple notes here, is the biggest question that we get by far is why PBX? And so we're going to just break it down into a few different segments. But the first one is raw powders versus powdered ones on the market. Why is PBX main ingredient better or different than those? Could you share us a little bit on that?
Sure, and I think I can expand it just a little bit to give it a bigger picture, because it isn't just powder versus liquid or synthetic versus natural, right? There's a complexity here that takes place. And so first, if you look at the safety data that's out there, and we have a lot of history with zeolites in the United States, Asia, Europe. Zeolites enjoy GRAS status in the US. So for those that are considering safety, which I hope everybody that consumes a supplement considers safety, it has the GRAS status from the FDA, but it's the naturally mined product that has that, not the synthetic, right? I'm not saying the synthetic is necessarily unsafe. It's just not the one that enjoys the GRAS status. So part of our decision making is to really look at the literature and what we know and make that decision. When you mine it, in our case, we're mining a product that is out of the ground Prop 65 compliant. So it's already clean. However, its size is too large to really do much more than act as a sweeping mechanism in the gut. So when you buy a powder, their size is anywhere from 10 to 100 times larger than even our pure body regular, and anywhere from 100 to 1,000 times larger, the size of the molecule, than our PBX, which is a nano-sized product. And so anything that gets below 0.4 microns in size will generally migrate out of the soft tissue, out of the gut into the soft tissue in the bloodstream. And so its ability to impact the gut is very limited. So the reason you have this size differential is to think about, okay, where do I want it to go? It's almost a strategy to consider. And in PBX, what we want PBX to do is to go everywhere. Now, when you think about the powders, how this comes into play is that they really can't mill them or size them that small to get into the cell system, because they wouldn't be manageable as a powder.
It's going to float all over the air.
That's correct. It would atomize, right? You would literally not be able to use it in that way. So just thinking through the process, right? We mine this really pristine zeolite. We mill it to the size that we want, in this case, nano-sizing, and then we process it. And this is a liquid process. It's now it's put into ultra clean water that really doesn't even fully express just how clean it is, but let's just call it ultra purified water. And we go through a process where we literally tease the cages, because zeolites are cage-like structures. They have a natural negative native charge, but we tease out the cages so that what we put back inside them, right? Tease out whatever's in them, put back inside, mostly calcium, some magnesium, because the cage has a low affinity for that. But when it goes into the body, it's important because it's ion exchange. Something's got to sit in the cage. When it comes in proximity, it works by proximity. It does not chemically dissolve in the body. It's floating literally through the body. As it comes in contact with a positively charged heavy metal or volatile organic or environmental pollutant in that category, just like the north end and the south end of a magnet, they sort of snap together and bind, right? We've all seen that as a kid. And so when that occurs, now it's bound. The body has no natural receptor sites for zeolites. It's not an essential mineral. And so it processes out of the body in about a 4 to 6 hour period of time, assuming sort of normal bowel and renal function. And so now it's sort of this perfect mineral from nature that if you prep it properly, which we size it to the right size to go where we want, in this case, we want it to go in the entire cell structure of the body. You have approximately 100 trillion cells. They're all over your body. They make your body up. The zeolite trap, the PBX trapped in a water molecule will go anywhere that water goes in your body. We've sized it to do that, nano-sized. We've prepped it so that it's ready to be this hyper effective sponge, binding with toxins. And those are sort of those key dynamics that give this an advantage over other types of zeolites you might encounter. And it's not uncommon for somebody to say, hey, I've been using zeolites 10 years. I've never seen anything happen to me quite like this. And it's just simply because while it was categorically a zeolite, it wasn't prepped and processed to be ultra effective. And I'll brag a little bit and say, I believe this is our competitive advantage in the marketplace, all these extra efforts.
Yeah, exactly. And so some people have, tried other things and they just said, wow, I guess it must be the size that is reaching more parts of my body. So you did a great job of covering all those, in one. Could you just one more quick second as to natural versus synthetic? You mentioned that it has GRAS certification, which means generally recognized as safe.
Yes.
Right. The synthetic one does not have that.
It does not, right? That's an official designation for clinoptilolite, and as it's written and defined, right? We're talking about naturally mined. The synthetics mimic them, but there's also issues with the strength of the bond. So zeolites in their cage-like structure, right? Molecularly, they have a bonded structure with 4 carbons, and no need to go into wearing everybody out on all that physics or biochemistry, I should say. But the bottom line is that structure is critical. They're hardened and incredibly durable. In the case of the natural product, your body cannot, under any circumstances, break it down. Synthetics are known to be weaker. It can vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, but in general, they are vulnerable to breakdown by what are called weak acids, which your stomach sort of gets into that designation. So the challenge might be that you would have some particulates breaking down and the bind break between the toxins or whatever, and so they're just going to remain in the system. Not unlike people that say do herbal cleanses, where it's teasing out something trapped in the bowel wall or in the cell, but once it's free, it's not bound, right? It can cause detox symptoms, outbreaks, other types of issues. And so that's one of the other reasons why we just strictly focus on that mined product, because we just don't want to deal with those issues, right? We want to have assuredness from that standpoint.
Yeah, and that's something really, really big for me as a mom. Because, I'm in my house, I'm the queen of cleanses. I've probably tried, I've lost track, honestly, just to be honest, I've lost track of how many different cleanses I've tried. I love herbs. I love my oils. I love different, all things natural, but it is sometimes hard to get something in my kids. And so the fact that I have that reassurance that I can give my kids something and it's helping them without me having to worry about any type of harmful side effect from the redistribution of these toxins somewhere else in the body is just that was my biggest issue right there, is because we want our kids to thrive too. And so knowing that it's safe, effective, and having the not having to be able to be redistributed throughout the body. So free floating of elsewhere. It's going to do what it needs to do and it's going to leave. We have that guarantee. Yeah.
Right. And that's what we want, right? Having done this for so long and seen people that'll have coffee in about whatever it happens to be, and the things that can occur, a nice, safe, proven, gentle detox, I think, is what most people want to use. Yes.
Well, I have valued our time together, and you have covered my topics so well. I know that we can dive into a few more things, but just as a real quick recap, you have explained to us that due to the size of PBX, it can reach every cell in our body.
Wherever
So,
water goes, it's trapped in a water cluster. Wherever water's going, it's going.
yes. And so, when I'm thinking about lung health, kidney health, heart health, gut health, adrenals, lymph nodes, I mean, when I'm thinking about everything, knowing that it's able to go everywhere, that is like amazing to me. So we'll do this again. This has
Absolutely.
been enjoyable. I love picking your brain and talking about it, but for the sake of time, I'm going to let the viewers get back. But one thing I wanted to mention is you've been so generous in the fact that you've opened up some sort of discount program for first time buyers, and you're letting people take advantage of this offer.
Oh, absolutely. So one thing we've realized is zeolites are such a new subject for most people that there's this slight moment of hesitation, right? So what we decided to do was, if for first-time folks, first-time Touchstone customers or whatever category they happen to fall into, there's a $50 discount available, and specifically with Pure Body Extra, that makes it $13.83, right? And in most cases, it's going to ship for free. There's a few places where it's not free shipping. Yeah. It's still 100% money back guarantee, right? So if you're not happy and you want your $13.83 back, but then also you go on to our subscription program, which you can change at any time, but then that's the very next price, best price available. Normally it's $79.95, but on subscription it's $13 or $63.83. Again, change it at any time. But we know people will enjoy it. They'll enjoy the results. And so we want to aid that process of checking it out because you hear detox and they don't know what to think. And so that's why we put this program together. So we hope your audience will utilize that.
Well, thank you. They can certainly reach out. We're here to help. I'm loving helping people as they go, and I love seeing their success. Their success is our success, right? I get happy when they're happy. So thanks again so much, Eddie. We will talk to you soon. I'm going to close off this live, and we will see you next time. Thanks,
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.